Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of From Paycheck to Prosperity. I'm your host, Adela Pasos, and today we have a special guest, Mr. Daniel Selvey. He is the CEO of GDI Enterprises Merchandising. How are you today,
I'm doing
Mr.?
good. Thank you for having me, Adela. I really appreciate it. I've been wanting to get on your show for a while. I know we talked about it, so definitely glad to be here.
Amazing. So, guys, we'll jump right in. This episode is going to cover the topic of merchandising and the merchandising business, including the business of ethnic hair care market. So, let's jump right into the questions we have for you, Mr. Selvey.
Mhm.
So, how has the merchandising business evolved recently, and what kind of trends do you see shaping its future?
Yeah, it's definitely evolved in many ways over the years. I think some of technologies and innovations that's out here now has somewhat shifted the core of the foundations of the industry. Back in now data is king. Customers you got to have data on the customers. You have to have data on what they're doing, and data is more prevalent now than it was before. Before, you might have spreadsheets, actually paper.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have so much going on. Nielsen's, records data on everybody, and it's readily accessible, more
Mm-hmm.
so than ever before. So now, if a consumer wants to know about pricing or something like that, it's easy to find what's going on with your competitor. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
my competitor's putting it at $8.99. Before, you might have had to send somebody out there. It might be different regions, so you have to gather the information yourself. Right now, you click a button, it's there.
Wow.
So I think that's one of the biggest things that is shifting a bit. And then of course you talk about e-commerce. That's taken away from somewhat of field merchandising. If they're going out in the field, what is me putting what we call POP material, point of purchase material, different signage, sales tags, other things. That person's not going in that store; they're buying it online. So now you go from having just a hip quick number, 100 shoppers, to now maybe having 40.
Mm-hmm.
Still a decent number, but a lot of that market share has been taken away to e-commerce. So it's really changed merchandising in that way to where it's not as much work out there as it used to be.
Mm. Yeah, I can agree with that. And many people who follow my channel know that I promote SEM Rush. It's one of the best tools for just data intelligence,
Hmm.
especially for people who own online businesses and who are looking to see who their competitors are and what kind of words they're ranking for, what their online footprint looks like. That's a really, really helpful tool for any kind of business that's trying to stay competitive, including merchandising
Hmm.
businesses. So, can you share some insights into maybe some of the unique challenges and opportunities that the ethnic hair care market is facing?
Well, yeah, there are many challenges, and even it's kind of correlates with the other question too, because when I look at it now with the data and everything, I think the best thing you could do is have the best of both worlds.
Mm,
So there's still shoppers going into the store, and there's still shoppers that's doing e-commerce. So how can you talk to them both?
mm-hmm,
And to me, I think that's the strategy that we try to talk with our manufacturers about, to say, hey, let's marry the two. And
mm-hmm.
you see it online, you see it in the store, you probably more likely to buy it.
Yep.
So having different ways for, even from the shelf, talking to your consumer, interaction with a consumer, even having more intimate things with your consumer.
Mm-hmm,
Hey, hit this QR code, it'll take you to this page. So now, even though I'm in the store, it's taking me online, and maybe I have some special going on in the store from online. So hey, yeah, this is good online, but we're doing this special promotion at a store. Those things make a big difference. So I think marrying the two is good. And as far as the insights for and challenges for this market, is that you have to do everything. Why? It's a saturated market.
mm,
I mean, you got hair care companies coming out the wazoo. You got hair care products
mm,
just more and more. I mean, you look at a lady's medicine cabinet, or under their sink,
mm,
you're gonna find, I mean, 40 different products 10 different shampoos, 20 different conditioners,
Yeah.
11 leave-ins,
Yeah.
all kind of stuff. And they all promise to be the best thing ever. So how
Yeah.
do you know as a consumer? How can really differentiate those things? So,
Yeah.
I think that's one huge challenge. I think the trends consistently change. One point we'll get to it later, they were permanent hair.
Yeah.
Another point, everybody went natural.
Yep.
Now we talk about braids and
Yeah.
faux locks and all those other things. So now your trends are going different. How do you keep up with that consumer? She's changing her hair 4 or 5 times now. They're wearing wigs, they're wearing weaves, they're doing all kinds of different things. So
Yep.
if I'm a manufacturer, like, what do I do?
Yeah.
It's like, man,
Yeah.
I was really good for braids, and now they off braids, they're doing this. So, how do I keep up? So, and
Yeah,
then
that's a challenge.
it's a big challenge. It's a huge challenge because some companies even try to change with the trends, but then they lose market share because that's not what they're good at.
Yeah.
So a lot of companies are now in the point of where do I stick with what I am? I'm a moisturizer. That's what we're gonna be, or do I keep trying to bump with the trends? Maybe I get a hit, but a lot of them aren't. So it's tough,
Does it make sense to hire like a data analyst, do you believe? I know a lot of smaller companies normally can't afford a salary for a data analyst, but that is what data analysts do and try and forecast trends and see how the business strategies can be implemented for the future. Do you recommend that companies hire someone like that so they can stay top of mind?
I think it'll be a good investment. Again, like meteorologists, like, yeah, it's gonna be
Yeah.
70 degrees, but it might be 65. You know what I mean?
Correct. Yeah.
So, I think, but getting as close as you can, if you're thinking it's going to be 50 degrees and it's going to be 80, you're in some trouble, or
Right.
vice versa.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
you want to try to have some type of idea of where it's going to be. I think putting the money there can be beneficial, but like I said, it's just, we'll get to it later too with social media. Something just went viral, so now everybody's going to
Buying that
this.
one. Yeah.
But I didn't put all my money. The data analyst told me this, this, and this, and I put it here. Now I'm behind the 8 ball. How do I catch up? You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
So it. I always say, if you have it, exhaust all means necessary to do the best. To get as close as possible to the trends and what you need to do for your business.
Good. And how important is cultural representation and inclusivity within marketing and then also within product development in the ethnic hair care market?
That's huge. That's huge. I think this is a great question. I think it's one of the big issues that we face for a long time. But I think we're starting to see some progress in it. If you look now at in Forbes, you're seeing more women in Forbes. It's top CEOs, top business women, high positions, African Americans, Hispanics. You see a good mix of people, just like what this country and what this world is. So I think that's been a good thing I've been seeing over the last 10 years, 10, 15 years, to where you're seeing progress in that. And other thing is, you're making products for a certain consumer. You better know what she likes and how she is. You got to understand that, hey,
Mm-hmm.
certain things crinkle my hair. I need to get a detangler. Like, if you don't understand some of the small things behind it, even at the top CEO level, you're gonna miss the mark on how you can connect to that consumer and relate to them. I think, like I said, now they're doing a better job with it. Even looking at some of the commercials that you see. I think P&G came out with the talk and the look of how different people might look at a African American, or the talk that you have to have with this young boy, even a young woman, as an African American. So like marketing those things and really having people to understand it is going to help you connect with that consumer even better.
Yeah, I believe in brand education. I've been really seeing a lot of brands that are dabbling into the Latin space, but
Mm,
like Latinas with curly hair.
yes.
Because I think in the past, I think generally people think of Latinas of women with really long, black, straight hair, right? But Latinas span across all different hair
Yes.
types, and there
Yes.
hasn't really
Oh.
been many brands that represent or speak to these curly headed Latinas, right?
Hmm.
So I've been seeing a lot more of that in the ethnic hair care market. And I think it's good. I think that we need to see much, much more of that. So, next question for you. What kind of innovative strategies have you seen in the development of ethnic hair care products?
Yeah, this was a tough one for me because I was really trying to think, innovative strategies that have really been out there. I think the best strategy has been truly connecting with the consumer and making them feel like they're a part of it from step one to step 10. I think one group that's done it well has been Mael Organics. The owner started out as a nurse and wanted to do something for her daughters and made a product that she felt was safe for them and good for them. And she really connected with her consumers. Like, hey, I'm here. I'm a regular mom just like you. I'm a nurse just like you, or a working mom, whatever. And those things really built a whole, I don't know, following, for her
Mm,
brand, and it's really turned into something that has been amazing in the ethnic. I mean, they were like ranked 40th in
mm,
sales 5 years ago.
mm-hmm,
Now they're number one.
mm-hmm.
It's amazing. And people are like, where did they come from? How did this happen? Well, it's those innovative strategies that probably more wasn't even like I'm setting out to do it. She was just being herself,
Yeah,
and built
authenticity.
authenticity. I think people connect to even more.
Yeah,
And there's so much fake stuff going on now that you're looking for something to be authentic.
yeah, I agree. Having a great brand story makes sense, and authenticity always wins in the end. So, great strategies for the products there. How crucial is consumer education in the ethnic hair care industry, and what steps are being taken to ensure the consumers are making informed choices?
Education, education, education is huge. It's one of the things we preach as a merchandising team. It's one of our biggest initiatives to make sure that we're educating the consumer. Because I think the biggest thing that we fight now, I was going to talk about it later with the social media, is that you have so many uninformed people talking as experts.
Hmm.
So you have to fight against that. Oh, this
Mm-hmm.
has this in it, so it's gonna make your hair fall out. Well, or this didn't work for me. But people don't understand there's different hair types, there's different hair textures.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody that's a 4C that's have really tight coily hair, somebody that's a 2,
Mm-hmm.
it's totally different types of hair. So if you're gonna use the same product, you probably gonna get two different results. But now somebody has 20 million followers. They could say this product was great for me, and then somebody use it with 4C hair. It's like, well, that's not good, and never want to pick up the bottle again or trust any of your products. So
Yeah.
having quality education on the product is very, very important. And I think you have to be honest with your consumer. Sometimes you got to say, this isn't for you. You
Mm-hmm.
know, this is
Mm-hmm.
not. This is specifically for this style of hair. You might be cutting dollars out, but at the end of the day, you're not.
Right.
Because you're really telling the truth on it, and people can trust it, and then they're gonna see the right results instead of the wrong.
Correct. Correct. Yeah, it's really important that the brands are transparent with people nowadays, especially because they are head of formulating the product and they know the ingredients that were put into it. They ultimately should have gone through product testing and
Hmm.
see what happens before it actually went to market. So it's very, very important that the consumer education piece is there.
Yes.
And lending back to e-commerce, how has the rise of e-commerce platforms influenced the distribution and accessibility of ethnic hair care products?
It's truly giving more brands a chance to compete. Before you had to go through certain distributors, had to go through certain retailers. They only had so much space on the shelf. They only had so much space in their warehouse. So if you're not one of the top of the line guys, or they taking the chance on you, a lot of times they wouldn't take the chance.
Hmm.
We have our team pretty much, like, and you have to find grassroots ways to sell your product out the trunk,
Mm-hmm.
garage sale, whatever. You try any ways to sell your product. Now, your product can be seen from anybody,
Mm-hmm.
anywhere,
Mm.
because of the internet and e-commerce. And so now it's giving these guys a better chance to compete early, and now they can even use that as testimony to finally get into the Walmarts, to finally get into some of the big box stores, and say that, hey, you know, we're here. You know, we have a following. But with that comes great responsibility too, because e-commerce, before e-commerce, you can be doing 50 products, sales a week to going to 5,000.
Mm.
So you have to be ready for that build up, and that I think that's one thing that hurts a lot of manufacturers now is like, we only had enough money for this and this, or where do I get the next? Now you have the demand. If you can't supply the demand, then what
Customer
happens?
service takes a dent.
It takes a huge dent. Now
Yeah.
the customer trust. Now they're going to somebody else
Yep.
because your stuff is on the shelf. So
it's a balancing act at times.
It's a huge balancing act. You can't jump into deep water too soon, but you can't be afraid to get in the water.
Correct. Yep. Always. So, in what ways has social media played a role in shaping consumer perceptions and driving trends in the ethnic hair care and merchandising space?
Yeah, as we talked about earlier, it's huge because it could make or break a product. An issue could be, we talked about those unqualified persons talking about a product.
Mm-hmm.
They could say something about your product on social media,
Mm-hmm.
and it could go viral for good or for
Mm-hmm.
negative, right?
Mm-hmm.
So um, it's like it puts things on steroids. I guess is the best way I could say it.
Yeah.
For the good or for the bad. And so you have to get behind it when it comes to merchandising. Somebody might say something about a product. Now we have to work 10 times harder to make sure we educate on. They're saying this, but here's the science behind it. Here's the test behind it. Here's all those things behind it to say that this claim isn't true, or this was a one-off, or just a bad batch, because those things happen too. So it really helps us in merchandising to really say we have to really put a huge, even bigger effort to educate the consumer and put things in front of them to dispel, I want to just say lies, but maybe misconceptions.
Yeah. And it makes sense for brand representation to hire someone who can do brand listening. That's it's a term in the marketing community, and whether that's your social media manager or you specifically hire someone to make sure that you're following your hashtags, that you're monitoring the types of content that's being put out there about you online, that you're always filling the internet space and social media space with lots of positive reviews, and that you are getting samples of the product out and collecting feedback and just constantly monitoring and listening for what people are saying about the brand online. It's extremely important to have somebody like that.
Yes.
And that would take some of the burden off of what merchandising teams would have to do if brands implemented a brand listening strategy. Okay. And let's see what else we have here for you. Let's talk about pricing. So, how do companies justify pricing disparities between some ethnic hair care products and then similar mainstream products?
There's quite a few factors that play into that, right? You got to look at raw materials.
Yep.
Certain raw materials go up and down in pricing. We had the pandemic. Certain raw materials were hard to get, and if you got them, you probably was a big dog. They're gonna sell to you first before they sell to a smaller company, or whatever. So that could bring a huge price difference, because now I have to mark my price up a whole lot because it's so hard to get this raw materials or whatever. Same with ingredients. Design plays a part in it. Gold caps, metallic caps, all those things. Sometimes they're not readily available. So it's like the price goes up on those things. Again, supply and demand and all those things. Marketing, promotion, and dollars play into it. $3.99. If it's $3.99, everything is in that $3.99. So you have to have your marketing, your
Packaging,
samples,
samples.
your
Yep.
promotions, all those things are in that $3.99 price that you're putting out there. So it's
Mm.
very important that you have the right price. If you go under, you can lose your company. So
Yeah.
you got to make sure you do your research and say, okay, what's the best price for this thing to survive me, to make a profit, but still do other things it takes to run it. I think the other thing we had looked at is sometimes it's greed. Sometimes it is some greed in it, that I feel like I can get this much more out of it when there's no real reason to do it, but you can do it. It's a demand for your products that you have to hire. But another big thing is it's just hard to compete with the big boys.
Right.
They have huge warehouse. They have developers in multiple countries and
millions of
factories.
dollars for ad
Come
spend
on, you know what I mean? Like
and influence.
they've been there for a while,
Yeah.
so to compete with those guys is tough. And you find a lot of companies wind up after a while selling to those guys because you can only compete for so long at that level before you start taking the hit because these guys have been established for 50 years, 75 years. So it's tough.
Yeah, I think take this for example, if you're selling a shampoo for $15.99, 8 fluid ounces,
Mm-hmm.
and you got the big boys selling 8 fluid ounces for $5.99, it's I guess people would be more inclined to go with that price, but it makes sense that if you build a community around your brand or you are catering to a niche market
Mm-hmm.
that will love and buy your products, or they have a specific problem that needs to be solved, I think that refocusing your marketing around that makes the most sense in order to make sales. And I think on that level, you may be able to compete against the big
You
guys.
can. I mean, when people know that you're there for them,
Yep.
there's a relationship. Sometimes you're willing to go a little deeper in your pockets to
Correct.
support it because I'm like, I believe in the message and I believe in what they're saying. I believe in what they're doing. Some of these guys have, factories in other countries paying people way, way low wages because they can. They don't have the same rules in the United States. So they can put the price at that level. But like to your point, if you can really say, I'm here for you. I want the best thing for you. I'm making this product. This is a need that I've heard you all tell me, and I'm making a product to meet that need. I think it does go a little further.
Amazing. As far as also pricing strategies, would you recommend that manufacturers price for profit? Would you recommend that they keep profit in mind in the beginning, or would you recommend they try to get pricing as low as possible to win over the consumer and then gradually add on to the pricing as they build more customers?
Your price, it depends. Your price can sometimes become your identity, right?
Yeah.
I look at a Shea Moist when they came out. They were high price, but
Mm.
what they did was a lot of guerrilla marketing as far as we're gonna put this 50% off 12 times a year. Nobody was doing that. Like
Mm.
you're doing your stuff half off. So the consumer became like, oh, I'm gonna just wait till it go on sale and I'm gonna buy it. You can only do that for so long
Mhm.
at times before it starts to take a hit on you.
Right.
So when you have to keep it at a price where the consumer still buy,
Yeah.
so you got to be careful with it. I would recommend coming in with a solid price. It's not too high. It's not price gouging people,
Yep.
but it's not too low too, to where it's like
You're not making any money.
eventually you're gonna take a hit. Yeah, you can
Yeah.
get the buzz and you can get it going, but eventually you're gonna have to raise the price.
Right.
And then what's the consumer gonna be like? Man, you raised the price on me. I like to over deliver, what was it? Over deliver
Under
and
promise.
under promise.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, oh man, you feel like it's Christmas. You're like, man, I got a gift. Like, man, can you believe this?
Yeah.
It's now $7.99. I used to pay $9.99. Well, it always should have been $7.99.
Correct. Gotcha. All right. For those listeners out there wondering about pricing strategy. All right. And the last question before we wrap up: how do companies navigate concerns about the safety of chemical ingredients in hair care products, especially in the communities with unique hair care needs?
Yeah. This is a tough one now because we understand that there's a big lawsuit. Started out with like 40 people. Now it's around 7,000 lawsuits out there for the ethnic relaxers. And that has a whole history behind it too. Understanding that it was only a certain look that people had to have in order to get a job or to climb the corporate ladder.
Mm-hmm.
And the relaxer was a part of that to make your hair straight to look like everybody else.
Yep.
Now, thank goodness that we don't have those same issues in the workplace. You can wear dreads now, you can wear braids. All those things are accepted, and even there's some laws in states that say you cannot discriminate based off a hairstyle. But as far as these lawsuits, I think and the chemicals, I think companies have to be upfront with people saying that here's a disclaimer. it can
Mm-hmm.
do this. Some of them did say that. I think the biggest thing with the lawsuits with the relaxers is that they knowingly know it causes cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And you could say that with hair care stuff, food,
Mm-hmm.
skin, all kind of things where a lot of times some of these companies know about it. And to me, that's very dishonest and that's
Mm-hmm.
that's wrong. You know, so I would say if you have some chemicals or certain things in your products, you got to be upfront with your consumer and let
Mm-hmm.
them know here are the risks. But 90% or 98% have no risk with it, based off your science. So you have to do a lot of research, and development on those type of items to make sure that you are being 100% honest with your consumers.
Amazing. Yeah, that's really good information. If you have one message to ethnic haircut companies who want to merchandise and take advantage of merchandising services, what kind of message would you give to them?
As we talked about earlier, connecting with your consumers. You can put a product out there, you could put it at a decent price, but if you're not talking to that consumer, if you are not engaging with them, if you're not putting things out there that let them know that, hey, here's a sale for you, or here is some extra education on it. Here's a trip to Ghana. Here's a trip to Puerto Rico, whatever the case is for this. If you're not doing those things, and if you don't have a team out there representing your brand, it's going to be hard to compete. Again, we talked about how saturated it is. You have 50 million companies out there, 50 million shampoo. What makes yours stand out? Well, I have a team going in stores every month talking to not only the consumers, but also some of the retailers and
Mm,
saying, hey, this is what this product does. So when that person comes in and says, I need something for my hair, and this merchandiser has been educating this store clerk, educating this manager on the products, the benefits, the features and benefits, the different sales that's coming up, the different things that we're doing to promote it, it is a different conversation.
mm-hmm,
And you're going to stand out 30 times more than somebody else that has not done it, just put the product on the shelf. So it's really about supporting what you put out there
mm-hmm,
and giving some things back to your consumers to make yourself truly stand out from the crowd, because it's a big crowd.
mm-hmm.
And if you're not doing that, you'll see the difference in sales. We've seen it in companies who had merchandise and got rid of it, and it might not be the only reason, but I'm just saying what I see. We saw sales plummet. We saw demand plummet. We saw brand awareness plummet
Mm.
because you're not consistently in front of the face of your consumers doing things.
That's amazing. It's an amazing message. And where can the audience find your business?
My business is online. Again, kind of represent two. We talked about GDI Enterprise, and that website is www.gdient.com. But also, Jitta Enterprise is kind of the parent company of it, and that's www.jitaent.com. They both um, stand for some things for us. Jesus, the answer is Jitta, and God did it is GDI. So we always bring God into it because for me, He's the source of all things.
He's
So,
the one.
yep,
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of From Paycheck to
we check
Prosperity.
the prosperity.
And I'll catch you guys in the next one. If you guys have questions, comments, please leave them at the bottom of the podcast. And I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.